What's up, my man?
Hey, Rich, welcome back, first and foremost.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, I just want to
So the
chat.
world's on fire, huh?
The world is on fire.
That's
It's
what they
all,
say.
and it's global warming. It's global warming.
That's
It's,
what they say. What do you think about all that?
I think that it's pretty interesting that an island has got a lack of water to put out fires, as in,
Mm.
I think that's, and they had apparently the best alarm system on the planet as well that they just chose not to ring. So all of that, but hey, it's global warming that's doing it.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, when I was on Sardinia, they had two of the Bombardier water bombers there at the airport, and they had some fires going on there as well too. Um, People don't know this about me, but I used to work for the Ministry of Natural Resources for a summer when I was 16. They had this program called the Junior Ranger Program. And what they did was they took a bunch of 16-year-olds up north to Northern Ontario. Mostly our parents didn't want to deal with us, so they stuck us on a train at Union Station downtown Toronto. We went up to Folliet, Ontario. And then they took us to another town called Chapleau. And all around there's tree planting, taking weevils out of trees, clearing portage trails. We did all this shit for the government, basically for minimum wage. And we were learning about forestry and forest fires because that was one of the areas that we had to deal with. There was a couple of forest fires that we had to get some piss packs. They had these squirt packs, so you'd fill them with water and you basically squirt them like this, and you deal with ground fires with them. So we had a little bit of a training session, and we learned that there's really only three sources of forest fires. So the stuff that you guys see today, it only comes from three places: lightning strikes, sparks that come off of improperly maintained or aligned rail lines or tracks on trains, or human negligence. And human negligence doesn't cause that many forest fires. There's the odd new guy that goes out camping. He's a bit of a dipshit and he doesn't know how to put out a fire, sort of thing. But most people that are outdoorsmen and they go out, they generally care about the environment, putting out fires properly. So it's mostly lightning strikes that cause most forest fires. And I'll tell you something. I was scrolling through Twitter like a couple months ago. Actually, this was more towards the spring when the Quebec forest fires were really ripping it out. And I think Casey Neistat put a video out about New York City, and like the skyline was all orange, and you couldn't see like your hand in front of your face, and it was really bad. And he was he's talking about all that. And I saw this satellite imagery over Quebec on where all the fires started. And I'm actually surprised that they released this because this told me exactly what happened. There was something like 9 to 11 fires that all started at the exact time. So it was time-lapse video, right? So you see like, the ticker at the bottom, and you see smoke plumes simultaneously in 11 different places in northern Quebec all start. And then you see them get caught in the wind and they sort of blow across the province, right? Not a single cloud in the sky. Okay, so that rules out lightning. What are the chances of trains, sparks coming off mismanaged lines and tracks simultaneously in 11 different locations starting those fires? I'd say almost nil. And I would probably argue that there is almost like no or any rail lines near those areas. So that rules out lightning and it rules out trains, which means it's got to be humans that started the fires. Right. And I've never seen like the amount of fires that we have burning in Canada right now that we do this year in any other past year, which tells me they were started intentionally. That's what I think. So why would they do that? It's to fearmonger, and it's to argue for more taxation and carbon taxes and more taxes for this, that, and the other thing, because that's part of the global agenda, right? Like that's part of the, they tried the scamdemic and that worked for a few years, right? And it's like, okay, we have to try to control people with something new, something more scary, something, the world is on fire because of global warming. Bullshit. It's cold as fuck here in the summertime now. It's not even that warm.
Well, how interesting that in 2020 was, I believe, a worldwide low for forest fires.
Yeah.
Interesting that during those years, everyone was made to be inside in a way.
Everyone's locked down.
Yeah. So interesting.
Where do you live, by the way?
In Calgary. Yeah. So
I mean, you're probably pretty familiar with what I'm talking about when it comes to fires and forestry and stuff then?
Oh, 100%. And I'm going to dig into it as well. But from my understanding is that there was a program where they would clear fuel from the forests to make sure that there wasn't dead branches, light grass, all of that that's going to go up. And they really scaled back on that heavily. So I think that's a component to it. Uh,
Yeah, they usually have controlled burns to deal with dead brush, and there's some forest management in that area, but forest fires have always happened, right? Like
yeah,
it's a natural part of the world, and climate changes, right? Like climate has always changed. I don't think it should be called climate
no,
change or global warming. Climates change,
no,
right? Like 12,800 years ago, we had a massive ice age, and there was a significant, they say, meteor impact in different parts of the world. It probably broke up, the atmosphere, and we've had climate change various times throughout history. Every few thousand, years, sometimes every 10,000 years, we have dramatic changes. This is just a random thing. I don't think it's like human involvement or influence. I think it's like they're doing this on purpose to try to scare shit.
well,
Right?
yeah. I mean, how convenient that
It's
that
called
global.
global boiling. Apparently, is that
Say
is that a
again?
thing? The UN is calling it global boiling now. Is that a thing?
I don't know about that particular
That's
terminology.
nuts.
What I know is that today in the National Post, there was a story about how literally it says that the planet is on fire, and that also it's connected to anxiety throughout. So, talking about there was a study done on children seeing smoke, and if
Mm.
they see smoke, then that connects them to a lot of different anxieties, problems with behavior, all of this other type of nonsense. So now that we're saying that, another reason to really keep people afraid and scared, stay inside again because it's smoke, right? Smoke, don't breathe it in.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that it's creating the same effect that we had of that little illness that we had just recently,
Yeah.
and a lot of uh, interesting little details are coming out of that post this, and then literally they can't get creative enough to create something that to make everyone fearful. They're literally just going to be right on the face of it and say, hey, the world's on fire now, stay inside. I mean, and it's global warming. Okay, okay.
I, like people are just getting more gullible and stupid as time goes on, and I'm sorry, guys. I just don't have a lot of patience for it. Like I understand, being cautious and paying attention to some media pieces that are broadcasted to you. Like I remember during the scamdemic in the early months, like let's say it happened, it was around January, February, March that it really started to ramp up in that year. And then it was
Yeah,
by like March, it's like, okay, this is happening now. It's a pandemic. Wear masks, stand on your dots, it's social distance. Okay, fine. Maybe this is a real thing. A
right.
month or two goes by, and I'm like, I'm concerned for my parents. I'm like, look, don't go anywhere. We'll get your groceries. Just chill out. Because they're older, stuff like that. So, and then I'm like, hang on, if this is such a big thing and it's really that bad, why do I not know anybody that's sick or dying or dead? Why does nobody that I know not know anybody that's sick or dying or dead? Why is everybody, doing weird things like driving in a car with their windows up, wearing gloves and a mask? Like it just didn't start adding up. And I remember by like April of that year, I put out a video. It's on my Entrepreneurs in Cars channel. So I think the title of it was something like Sheeple the Dot Standing People, because that's what I saw. I saw sheeple standing on dots, and it was like, oh, you got to social distance, like get away from me, sort of thing, like they were wigging out, sort of stuff, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's like, wow, we really got everybody going in that direction real quick. Everybody gave up on autonomy, on sovereignty, on their own control, and 75% of the population fell for it, right? Because about 75% got the jabs. Some people were forced to. It was like, if you don't do this, and we're going to fire you, sort of thing. I know some people's wives were like, look, I've done it, you need to do it, to protect the household. And the guy's like, fine, whatever, just do it. Yeah, okay. So you see what I'm saying here, right? Like
Absolutely.
people fall for stuff all the time, and I don't know, man. I think humans are just gullible. I think that we're just a very gullible species, very successful species, but we're also very gullible too.
Yeah, I think that this is of recent, though, right? I think that this COVID that illness set an interesting standard, right? And it was a great litmus test to see what people will actually do and will succumb to.
Oh yeah.
And it's a pretty low bar that we've gone. So the fact that we've got certain organizations, worldwide organizations, saying that they want no one to own anything and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
And to control, I mean, it's right out in front of us, and they're not hiding the situation. How interesting that these two occurrences, that mysterious illness that we had, plus now these fires, create the same result in people, to be fearful, full of anxiety, and hey, stay inside if you see smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, reason in regards to smoke, that makes, however, this is all coming together for the same result. And when you've got certain organizations clearly stating that they don't want you to own things any longer, and prices are being driven up on everything, it doesn't take a lot to put the little pieces together to see what's happening.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is a crazy ass world that is coming at us, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't want to. I just don't want a part of it. You know, I don't want to play their stupid games. I don't want to live in places where they're going to pull shit like this and they can lock you down or prevent you from leaving. There's absolutely no way that I'm going to let happen what happened a few years ago happen again. So it's like, you know, if you see the writing on the wall like I do, you know, take the appropriate steps and make sure that you are in control of your life. It's, you know, it's as simple as that.
That's right. Well, I've got a young son. He's 6, so I'm not going. And this stuff makes me willing to fight.
Right. Is your ex willing to, like, does she see it from the same perspective that you do, or is she like about more like, you know, comply, scared of
full
smoking outside?
That absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things when you're divorced, right? You know, if you like, people don't like, divorce can be one of the best times of your life ever, and one of the shittiest times in your life ever too, right? Because, like, you know, you've got freedom and you got your kids, and if you did it right, you're not poor, right? But now you're anchored to Calgary, right? Because you got a small kid.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't take your kid away from the mom. You know, it's not allowed. No. You know, she technically can't do the same to you. So you got to kind of stick it out. And you have conversations around like, well, does Billy need that, experimental jab that they're telling us that we really need? Is he up to date on all of his experimental jabs, and he needs to go to this grade of school and, you know, this school, because that's how they enforce it on you, right? Like, we never had that when I was a kid.
No,
I never had any vaccinations when I was a kid, but now they have certain vaccinations that are mandatory. I'm not too worried about them because they're older ones and they're the older tech. They're not the mRNA bullshit ones. But they are enforcing more and more on you and your families that we ultimately had the freedom to just, you know, decide and choose when we were younger.
We did. And
what's real is real.
Out now showing that an mRNA does not leave your body. There's no removal from you once that's in there. So, so that is something that we're finding out now post that this is a big issue. And again, this is something I'm going to fight for. And Rich, you say, I can't leave. Where are you going to go? This is all across the planet now.
It's across most of the West. Yeah. Yeah. Some places that are slightly better, you know, slightly worse than others, but it's like, yeah. And that's why when I'm, you know, looking at this, when people go like, well, where are you going to go? It's like, I don't know that I'm going to go anywhere permanently, to be honest with you. Because for me, a sailboat has a couple anchors, you know, bow and stern. And you can hang out in a country for as long as you want. If you don't like it, you can pull up your shit and you can sail somewhere else, right? That's one of the cool things that I like about that. So you can set up your tax residency in a country you don't really need to live in and spend most of your time in that way. So there's options, right? Like there's things that you can do when you start, you know, sort of digging into it. The thing that you have to acknowledge, that you can't ignore, is that if you want to have those options, though, you have to have your life structured in such a way that you have the maneuverability, right? So, you know, to a point like you, and, you know, for me, even like my kid's a little bit older, but inviting the right kind of person, you know, the right kind of woman in your life. I mean, if you're going to have children with a woman, make better choices. Like, I'm sure you, as I've come to acknowledge, you know, in my own life, could have done some better vetting, could have acknowledged red flags as I saw them, and avoided, you know, the life that I've created, you know, for myself, where I can't leave right now either, right? Like, I've got to figure out shit over the next few years as I'm planning it. And, you know, it is what it is, man. But yeah, that is life. We've covered a lot in this one, Wahlberger.
Well, I think one thing too, Rich, is that the biggest solution to this or elixir for it is a conversation that you have. I mean, I've listened to you for I don't know how many hours, been part of this as well, and having logical conversation with those who are making decisions that seem to be built on emotion.
Mm.
I've rarely seen someone step up and debate with you and not agreed in the end with what you said, because you with realistic situations, so that people have come on and talked to you looking to be in opposition, yet they walk away in agreement.
Mm.
So we need to do that all the time. But the thing is, people aren't willing to step up and talk because some of these things that are being said are so
They're
ridiculous.
difficult conversations, and
You just walk
you know,
away.
I get it. Anyway, I got a few other guys waiting, but yeah, it was good seeing you, man. We'll catch up soon. Okay.
Welcome back, bro.
See you, buddy. Thanks. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.